I was definitely not ready for my first HYROX, and this is what I wish I knew before I signed up. Hi, I'm Dr. Amanda. I'm a chiropractor, and I finished my first HYROX race back in 2025, and I am signed up for the New York City HYROX in May of this year, the solo open. The first one I did was a solo open, and this one will also be a solo open. I signed up for my first HYROX because I saw it online. It was all over my Instagram. And I was like, hey, that looks cool. That looks interesting. Maybe I could do it. I thought it would be a good challenge. So I made it my 2025 goal to sign up and complete my first HYROX race, which I did. And my goal was to finish it in under 90 minutes. And I finished in 1 hour and 28 minutes and 10 seconds. So I met my goal, which made me feel wonderful. And after I finished, I had this moment of, oh my God, what did I just do? And I wish I had known what I was signing up for. One of the first things I wish I would have known before I signed up was how many rules there are in HYROX. There's so many different ways that you can get penalties. You can have time added. Rules like if you are, I think it's not just wiping your nose, but if you spit or clear your nose while you're running, you can get a 2-minute penalty or even a disqualification. A lot of little nuance rules. And I had this like awareness that there was a lot of rules going into it, but I didn't actually know what the rules were. So an example of something that I wish I had known was at the burpee station and at the lunge station, I didn't realize that if you're stuck behind someone that's not necessarily moving at the speed that you want to move, because some of those stations can get pretty crowded and jammed. I didn't realize that you could shift lanes as long as you're making like a lateral movement and not progressing forward. I didn't realize that you could shift lanes, so I was just kind of like stuck there, and I think that would have really affected my overall time. If I had known that going into those stations, it probably would have really helped. I was just afraid. I was like, it makes sense that I move, but I know that there's rules, and I don't want to get penalized. So I just stayed in my lane, and then I would get stuck behind people, and I'd just be like, okay, I'll just wait. Going into it now, reading the whole rule book, knowing exactly what to expect for each station, I think is important because there is just so many little nuances, and I know from other people that I've talked to that they've received little time penalties that they just didn't even think of, like stepping out of their box during sled pushes or sled pulls. And that when you don't really know what the rules are and you have the fear of the rules in your mind, then it really it's going to affect you more in the race, where you'll be more in your head about not wanting to do something. The other thing that I wish that I would have known is to have a better idea of my pacing during the runs, because I really didn't know how fast I was running when I was running. I have a fitness watch, but I had it set. I started a workout when I started my HYROX race, but I didn't have it start a run because of all the stations. I think it would be more important for me to just have the timer and my heart rate, and that would be enough, because my goal was really to just keep my heart rate sustainable during my runs. I didn't really want to know the pace. Instead, I think what I'm going to do in New York is I'll set my workout, but I'll set it as a run. That way I'll have the timer so I get an idea. I'll still have my heart rate is visible during the run setting of my watch. But then that way I can actually see what my pace is when I'm running my laps, because I really didn't have any idea how fast or how slow I was going. And I was going a lot slower than I had during training. And I think I could have picked up the pace and I would have had that awareness of the speed that I was at, then maybe I would have done that. So for me, moving into New York City, having that knowledge of what speed I am actually running at, I think will be helpful. When you're running a HYROX or when you're in the race, there is a big screen that has a list of the people who are on the course, and it'll tell you like what lap you're on and things. But it's just too difficult, in my opinion, to see where you are, and I just found it confusing. So I would just completely ignore that and make sure you're keeping track of your own laps in your mind and not relying on looking at that screen, because there's so many people out at the course at one time. It's just really confusing to look through the screen and look through all the names and think that you're going to be able to just see yourself while you're running by it and have an idea. I also wish that I had more experience with some of the actual equipment that was in the stations for the actual event, because one of the big things was the sled pull technique. I do not have a sled pull at my gym. We have a sled push, but there's no rope to attach to it. There's TRX ropes that you can attach and do like short pulls, which is basically how I trained, but it doesn't simulate the actual pulling of the rope and the technique of how you're going to do it. So when I got to the course, the warm-up station, when you sign up for a HYROX, you get there and you have there's an area to warm up, and in the warm-up area there's all the wall balls set up, there's ski ergs and regular ergs, and there's the sled pulls, sled pushes set up so you can practice before you actually start your race. And that was literally the first time that I got to decide what technique I was going to do for the sled pull. And I was definitely uncomfortable with every technique except for just using all arms and pulling. So that is what I ended up doing, was sled pull, all arms, pull. Pull, 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 pull. And it's a faster technique. I mean, I think I did my sled pull in a little over like 4 minutes, so it still took a long time. And it was hard. Like, that really gassed me. And if I had a better technique where I was using more of my legs and not all of my upper body, I think it would have been more energy efficient than the way that I did do it. And I just never had exposure to the sled pull. And still, going into New York City, I don't have a solution for that. I don't have access to a sled pull, so I'm trying to simulate it in the best way I can, using the idea of knowing what kind of technique I want to do and just trying to simulate it. But I know come race day, we'll see. I might just get there and be like, screw this, I'm using all arms again. So we'll find out. So I really wish that I had more access to equipment prior to the race. Other equipment also would be the ski erg. The ski erg, I had literally only done a ski erg one time before the race day. My technique wasn't superb when it came to the ski erg, and in my head the only thing I was really thinking is, well, just don't go too hard, don't pull too fast. And I think I was one of the last people from my heat in the ski erg still, because I just was like, all right, well, don't overdo it. But I think in trying so hard not to overdo it, that I was really inefficient, is the way that I would say it. This time going into New York City, I do have access to a ski erg at at the tennis gym that I go to. So I'm going to be able to use that more and create hopefully better techniques so that I can be more successful on race day. Number one thing I wish I knew prior to signing up for HYROX is that it is not a strength competition. I don't know why, when I was watching all the Instagram videos and seeing everyone do this, I just saw really fit, strong women. So I was like, you have to be very, very, very strong to do a HYROX. And the truth is, the weight is, especially the open weight, is not that heavy. Like, even without doing too much training, like weight-specific training, most people will be able to build up the strength to do the HYROX open woman's weight. That, in my head, when I was first starting to train for HYROX, was what I thought was going to be my biggest obstacle, was not feeling strong enough. I have been weightlifting consistently my whole life and have been very, very, very dedicated to it in the last 5 years, like to the point where I lift 3 to 7 times a week for the last 5 years. So I had enough baseline strength to do the stations. Obviously, some of the stations, burpee broad jumps, in my head was like, those are really going to suck. And no matter what, they're just going to suck. So you just kind of have to get over that. They're just going to suck. But what I didn't completely understand was that HYROX is really a running race. It really is an aerobic fitness race. And I have never been a cardio girly. I like lifting weights. I like picking up heavy things and putting them down. I do not like running. It's just, I'm a big woman. I've just always thought I just wasn't made to run. But that's not true. That's a mindset thing, Amanda. It's not true. You can run. Anyways, so going into HYROX, I was like, okay, I can run 6 miles without stopping. I'm okay. I'll be fine. Well, that's really not enough, because even though the 1 kilometer runs are split up, what is splitting up the runs is station work, is pretty intense. Some of the work is actually very aerobically challenging, like the burpees, like the lunges, like the sleds. They're going to increase your heart rate. Okay, so they are aerobically challenging, and then you have to go run a kilometer right after, and you're gassed, and your heart rate is high. So the running is really supposed to be your recovery, and running will only be your recovery if you train running to be your recovery. For me, running has always been where my heart rate spikes. It's been hard. It's not a recovery. So in order for you to have the times that you want with the runs, you have to train your aerobic fitness so that you can start to run faster without a high heart rate, and therefore get your heart rate down and use the runs as a recovery when then you're going into a heavy station at the next corner. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, when I first signed up for it, my biggest thing was, it's strength. I need to get stronger. And really where I went wrong was the running. My run times in Boston were atrocious. I think I had 1 kilometer that was like 7 minutes, 7:20, or could have been better. Versus I had a couple events where a lot of the stations, I was in the top 100 for the women in terms of speed. But then my run, like everyone beat me on the run. So it was just, I think I could do a lot better and get my time down if I focus more on the run. And that was something I didn't prioritize when I was training for my first one. I did so many wall balls and sled pushes and lunges. I was ready for those stations to the point of when I finished my wall balls, I think in like 4 minutes and something, maybe 30 seconds, less than that maybe. But I knew when I was doing the wall balls, I was like, I think I left too much in the tank. Like I could have pushed myself on the runs more. I just could have done better. And that's really what my goal is for New York City, is now knowing what I know is I want to improve my time, because why not? And that's probably the last thing that I wish I had known before I signed up for my first HYROX, is that it is addicting. It is fun. It is exciting. The energy in the event is so exciting. Like, you're just surrounded by so many people that are interested or like the same things as you do and are motivated by health and fitness and are just as wackadoodle or whatever you want to say. So it is exciting. Like, you enter that little race and you're like, wow. And you're just surrounded by so many people. Like, I was like, oh, damn. Like, I thought I was in good shape. And then I'm like, there's these people. Some of these people are like, you are insane. Good for you. Very, very exciting. And it's one of those things that it's you against you. So I think that's why it's so addicting, is, like, ooh, like I finished that race and I was like, I can do better. And so that was my goal going into 2026, is I wanted to sign up for my next race. And guess what? I did. I was on the wait list, or not the wait list. I was ready when the New York City tickets dropped, and I was like 26,000th in line waiting on that website to get my ticket. And I was really worried I wasn't going to get one, but I did. And I think that just is going to show how much more popular it's getting, especially in America. It's been popular abroad, I think, for a longer period of time. When I was first deciding that it was something I wanted to do, we were on vacation in St. Lucia, and there was a bunch of people at the resort we were staying at that were from Britain, and they all knew about HYROX. And I was asking this guy because he had a hat that said HYROX. I was like, oh, have you done HYROX? And he was like, oh yeah, I've done like 20. And I was like, oh, good for you. I want to just do my first one. So it was pretty cool that it's like, oh yeah, this is something that everyone does. And now I'm like, ooh, I think in the US it's becoming more and more popular. It's such a great fitness race to do because the barrier for entry is a lot lower than, say, a CrossFit open type event where you have to do more gymnastics and handstands and harder types of activities. All of these stations, anyone really can do. Now, whether you're going to injure yourself or not, if you're doing the stations properly, that is a whole nother story, which is, something that I'm passionate about helping people with, obviously being a chiropractor myself and having injured myself prior to my first HYROX, doing overtraining and not doing what I was supposed to do, even though I knew differently. In terms of signing up for my first HYROX, 100% would do it again. So much so, I signed up for New York City, and I doubt that will be my last. I would love to do some doubles, mixed doubles. I'm trying to convince my sister to do a doubles with me. I would love to convince my husband to do a mixed doubles with me. Hopefully there's many more races to come and more improvement time and time again. And I imagine I'm going to learn something every time I do it. So hopefully grow from there. And if you're interested in following along for the journey, that's why I'm here, to help motivate you to do those things that challenge you, make yourself uncomfortable, because that is when you grow. And when we grow, we become who we were really designed to be, which is the divine becoming aware of itself, which I got from Peter Crone, who is pretty amazing, the mind architect. If you've made it to the end of this video and you have listened to me talk for this duration of time, I'm extremely proud of you. I would recommend you stay on the video. The video is going to end any second. But I recommend that you stay tuned to future videos because I've got some exciting things coming up, because I am continuing my HYROX training, but in Disney World, the most magical place on earth. So look forward to those fun vlogs coming at you within hopefully the next week, 2 weeks, depending on how well my editing skills or how quickly I can edit. Those are harder for me than me just talking at a camera. Thanks for watching, and shine on from Dr. Amanda.